Hi there! In the previous session, we looked at functions, the single row functions and the group functions. In this session, we are going to look at joins. You may have realized that we have been getting data from only a single table. For example, since the employees table, the departments table, the countries table, we are just getting data from only one table. However, what will happen if we need multiple data sets from different tables? For example, we have a table called employees, and this employees table keeps employee records. Their first name, last name. Let us describe it here. It has employee ID, first name, last name, email, but when you look carefully, it doesn't have a department name. We only have department ID. What if we just need to know the exact department name rather than having the department ID? So this means I can only see the department ID the employee belongs to. There is no way I'll see the department name. I'll just stop at looking at the department ID. But what if we need to know the department name rather than IDs? Because if I ask which department is David belonging to, you will say 60. What is 60? Which department is 60? We don't know. So to get the name of the department, we may find it in another table. So to get the name of the department, we need to go to another table called the departments. Let me check this. We can see that in the departments table is where we find the department name. We don't have the department name in the employees table, but we need to get the name of an employee and then the department name. We can clearly see that the records we need are in two different tables. So how do we do that? To get that done, we use what they call joins. Joins help us to get data from different tables. We use the join keyword whenever we are joining two tables. However, these two tables must have what we call a common column. Join them using a common column that exists between these two tables. Let's see it. When we come back to our example, we can see that we have the departments table, and then we also have the employees table. The departments table will give us the department name, but the employees table will give us the first name and the last name of each employee. But when you look at these two tables clearly, you can see that there is a common column, which is department ID in the departments table, and then department ID also in the employees table. This is the common column that exists between the two tables, and it is the one we are going to use when we are joining these two tables. How are we going to join them? So we shall stipulate that we need the first name, then the last name, and the department name. Remember, the first name and last name, they are in the employees table, and then the department name is in the departments table. So we need to get the records from employees table. So we say from employees, and we are joining using the join keyword. So we are joining the employees table with another table called the departments. So we are joining two tables, the employees table and the departments table, and we are joining them using a common column. We put that common column inside brackets. The common column is the department ID. It is the common column that is in both tables. The departments table has department ID, and then the employees table has also the department ID. So when we run this, we can see that rather than having department IDs without any meaning, we can easily see that an employee, William Smith, is belonging to a department called sales, yet Stephen belongs to the executive department. This is more fair than just writing department IDs and we don't even know which department has that given ID. So this is what we call a join. To get a join, we need to have a common column in both tables, and we join these two tables using the join keyword. We have two types of joins. We have the inner joins and the outer join. With the inner join, they return data in matched rows from both tables. This is what we mean. We are going to use this very example to show that. For the inner join, we must have matching rows from both tables. For instance, we have this. So we have two records. We have the first name that is in the employees table. We also have the department name that is in the departments table. We are joining these two tables using a common column called the department ID. This is one example of an inner join. We could say inner join. So from employees, inner join the departments. But the inner keyword is just optional. We can include it or we may leave it. So what will happen? Records to be returned. The first name, an employee, must have a corresponding department in the departments table. There is no record that will return. Maybe an employee without a department will not be returned. Let's run this. So with the inner join, it will return any employee must have a corresponding department. Any employee must have a corresponding department. And indeed, when you scroll down, you won't find any employee without a department, or you won't find any department without an employee. Both rows must have data. This is what we mean that an inner join returns data in matched rows from both tables, meaning data must be in both tables, must be matching. Data in one table must have a corresponding data set in another table. That is what we call an inner join. So we shall not see an employee without a department or a department without an employee. So that is what we call the inner join. The inner is just optional. We can eliminate it and we still get the same results. We also have these two tables. We have the regions table and the countries table. When I describe them, maybe we are interested in knowing the countries and their corresponding regions, the region in which a country belongs to. When you look at these two tables, the region name is in another table and the country name is in another table. So we can join these two tables using a common column, which is region ID. We can run our previous statement and we try to modify it. So we need the country name and we also need the region name. From tables, we have the regions table and we also have the countries table. We are joining these two tables using a common column, which is the region ID. And when you run, you can indeed see that we have every country is having a region name. So this is an inner join. Remember, we say that the inner keyword is optional. The inner keyword is optional, but once you see that we only have join, it simply means that is an inner join. A record here in the country must have a corresponding region. So we can see that we have all countries and their corresponding regions. We couldn't do that without using the joins. Another type of join we have is the outer joins. We have the inner joins and we have seen how they work. Then we also have the outer joins. With the outer joins, we have two of them. We have the left join and the right join. With the left join, It returns all records in one table, regardless whether there is a corresponding record in the other table. So what the left join will do, it will return all records from the table on the left-hand side, whether there is a corresponding record in the table on the right or not. It will return all records in a table on the left-hand side, whether there is a corresponding record in the table on the right. Let's see this in action. Let us modify the previous query. The first one will ran the first name and the employees and their department from the employees table and the departments table. We first use the inner join, and when we run it, you can see that we have 106 employees or 106 records. Now this was an inner join, but for the left join, we are going to look at the table on the left hand side, or the starting table. The first table is always referred to as the table on the left. So all records in this first table will be returned regardless whether there is a corresponding record in the table on the right hand side. So when we use the left join, all the records in the table on the left are returned regardless whether there is a corresponding record in the table on the right. Let's see this. So when we change this from an inner join, we just write here the word left join. So what this means, that we return everything from the table on the left, which is the first table, and what are we getting from the first table is the first name. So what we mean, return all the first names from the table called employees, regardless whether an employee has a department or not. And we are joining these two still using a common column called the department ID. So when you run, you could see that there is one employee called Kimberly who doesn't have a department. This is exactly what the left join does. It returns all records from the table on the left hand side, regardless whether there is a corresponding record on the right hand side. So whenever we are using a left join, we just want every detail from the table on the left or from the first, whether it has a corresponding record on the table on the right or not. We also have what we call the right join, and what the right join does, it returns all records from the table on the right, whether there is a corresponding record in the table on the left. In other words, it will return all the records from the last table in the query, regardless whether there is a corresponding record in the table on the left hand side. Let's see this in action. This time we need to see all departments, whether they have a corresponding employee or not. So the departments table is on the right hand side of the join keyword. So we need everything in this table, and we are going to call it the right join. So when we run this query, we can see that all the departments are now returned, whether they have an employee or not. So we can see a number of departments that do not have employees. So we can see that from the query, the last table is the one whose records are all returned, whether there is a matching record from the first table or not. So that is how we use the left join and the right join. Finally, we have what we call the full join, and this one returns all records from both tables, regardless whether there is a matching record in either tables or not. So what the full join will do, it will return all the records from the table on the left and all records from the table on the right, regardless whether there is a matching record from either tables or not. And talking about the full join, the subscription to this channel will be a full join. Let's see this in action. So we need to return all employees, whether they have departments or not, and at the same time we need to get all the departments, whether they have employees or not. To do that, we are going to just change this from the right join to a full join, from the right join to the full join. So everything, all the records in the employees table will be returned, and also all the records in the departments table will be returned. When you run this, you can see that we now have everything returned. These are the departments without employees, the departments with employees, and when you scroll up, you can see that now we see an employee who doesn't have a department. So with the full join, it returns everything from the table on the left and also everything from the table on the right. We may have seen that we are retrieving data from only 2 tables, but if we have 3 tables or more, what could we do? For instance, have 3 tables. We have the regions, countries, and locations. So with these 3 tables, we are going to look at all of them. There are 3. But the countries, the regions table has a relationship, or it has a common column with the countries table. They both have a region ID as a common column. And the locations table is also related to the countries table. They both have country ID as a common column. So we can join the 3 tables using these common columns. How are we going to do that? We are going to pick the country name and then the city. Country name is in the countries table, and then the city is in the locations table. And then the region name is in the regions table. And we are picking this information from 3 tables. We are picking the information from the regions table, which is here, the first one, and then we are joining the regions with the countries table using the region ID. We are joining this table to this table, to the countries table, using the region ID. And then after that, we are also joining the locations table to all other tables using the country ID. So this will get this information, and when you run, you can see that we have all the cities, countries, and the region names. A country, UK, the city is Oxford, and then the region is Europe. So that is how we keep on joining, can keep on joining and joining and joining. It doesn't limit that we only need to have 2 tables, but we can have data from multiple tables. In summary, joins help us to get information or data from multiple tables. We always use the join keyword followed by the using keyword. We have a common column that exists among or between the tables we need to get data from. We have the inner joins that return data from tables with matched rows. And we also have the outer joins like the left join, the right join, and the full join. In the next section, we are going to look at subqueries.